everybody to the Disability Channel. I happen to be a guest from across the ocean, Yankee. My name is Tim Ulmer, and I would like to let the other participants introduce themselves and what their disability is.
Hi, I'm Esme, and at the moment, I'm based in Birmingham in the UK. I have a variety, unfortunately, of chronic illness. My journey started when I was about 17, I would say, with boils on my body, and I didn't know what they were. And at 21, I got diagnosed with something called hidradenitis suppurativa, which is a mouthful and a half. I wrote it down on a piece of paper when the doctor told me this is what you have. But it's known more in the UK and the US as HS, so just HS. And it characterized itself, for me anyway, starting in one area. It's said to be able to happen in any hair-bearing skin anywhere in the body, but most often it's under the armpits, in the groin, in the buttocks, and on the stomach. And all of these areas are filled with potential areas for abscesses to form and then get worse and worse. The final stage of the illness, which takes you to a very, very low place where you have open wounds all over your body. And that I got to that point many years ago and had huge operations to remove large parts of my groin by cosmetic surgery to try and improve the condition. And thankfully, touch some wood, my table, that improved that area. Now, I've spent many years and lots of sort of immunosuppressant drugs on and trials that I've taken on board for many, many years. I had to stop my business because of it, because it became so awful. And alongside that, I've picked up a few more acronyms and conditions. I was told last year I have fibromyalgia, which explained a plethora of conditions and feelings that I'd been having for many years, like Steve's probably well aware of, things like what I now know is called brain fog, things like shooting pains that didn't correlate to any exercise that I'd done or didn't correlate to anything that I had done to myself, if that makes sense. Aches and pains that I just couldn't explain, and they were recurring in the same position, the same place all the time. And so after seeing pain specialists and seeing a very, very important specialist in London for HS, I started to get a little bit of a handle on all my conditions and start to take ownership of them. For many years, I was heavily depressed and could never have done something like this. I was bedbound for years, and I had to give up a business that I built. I did a degree and ran a business, opened my own business for 4 years, and then my ill health just made it all decline, and I had to sort of give up it all and rebuild myself. But where I am now is I've got a lot more ownership to taking responsibility for my own care, you know. So yeah, I basically had to sort of pull up my bootstraps and realize that I may have lost quite a lot from this condition. I feel like it affects every area. I don't know about anyone else, but with chronic ill health, it has a way of disseminating into every element of your life, and it affects your family relationships. It affects your partnerships with others. It affects your personal growth. I didn't see at 29 I was going to be temporarily homeless, sleeping on friends' sofas and bankrupt. I thought at 24, when I left my degree, I had the world at my feet and I was going to take every single part of it. So now I'm 30-ish. I'm joking, I'm 37, maybe 37, yeah. And I've got to the point where I can joke about it, I can laugh about it. I use humor to get through the day. God, if I didn't have humor, we'd be all dead. I just feel like what I do is every single day I have to press the reset and go, right, okay, so what am I capable of today? Can I kiss my child? Yes. Can I hug him? Yes. Can I take him to school? Probably not. But there's other things that I can do. Like, for one thing, being able to connect with other people who are able to go, yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Somebody who might have faced pain in their life that other people will never face. So that's where I'm at. I've got a wife and a child. My wife's a scientist. She's a biochemist. And at the moment, she's been unemployed for 8 months. And it's pretty depressing. But, you know, we've got through it. Like, we've got through it because I've created personal connections with people around me to be able to get through it. And I don't know about everyone else, but I feel like I've definitely created more of an online connection with people that I might not have ever connected with before. It's given me ability to propel myself forward because I feel like I'm maybe coming to we're all in the same boat. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
We're all stuck in house at the moment. And actually I feel like maybe this is the closest I've felt to many people in my life because actually they get it a little bit. You know, that uncertainty of life of I don't know whether tomorrow is going to be decent enough for me to open my eyes and feel okay about my life. That's what happens regularly, especially with fibromyalgia. It can be a massive flare up. I had a flare up for weeks and then all of a sudden I felt a bit better. And you just never know. And people have that uncertainty now. And I think that really scares them. But in a small way, I feel a little bit refreshed to see others having to experience it.
As my wife is always reminding me, we might be jealous of the Smiths across the street, but we don't know what their predicament is. They may be facing bankruptcy or a problem that we can't see, just like yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people need to stop being jealous, weighing themselves according to others.
Exactly. I am in my own race, and I've been in my own race for many years. And the only person that can destroy that race is me. And the only person that can propel myself forward is also me. You know, you can become your biggest critic, can't you, in these settings?
Absolutely.
And Dion, I want to hear a lot more about you because you and I have heard about each other and we've seen each other in passing on screen, but we've never actually been able to find out a little bit more about, you know, our commonalities. And what about you? Like how, you know, at what point did you feel that your health kind of became a barrier to life a little?
Oh, when I was at work, losing my job through my condition was the turning point of what changed everything in life. I mean, lots of things changed things in life, and I've had lots of changes that affected me from childhood. But the illness itself, I've got COPD, emphysema, and asthma, anxiety and depression, and I'm hypothyroid as well. So with a hypothyroid, you take levothyroxine for the rest of your life. My thyroid's been killed off via radioactive iodine. I had that twice. First time it didn't work. All of these conditions causes fatigue, so I never know which one it is at the time. Mm-hmm. It could be a case of, maybe I need a blood test to check on my thyroid to see if I'm taking the right medication, or it's a COPD today, you know, just making me feel really lethargic and fatigued. And then on the other hand, anxiety, depression in itself just comes up and, as we all know, bites you on the bum when you really don't want it to, and
completely floors you.
Can be awful.
Yeah.
Because I'm the type of person, I just need to be left alone, to tell you the truth, to deal with it and get through it.
That's advertised very big in America. Is that but no one talks about it. Is it kind of like lung cancer, emphysema?
Emphysema, yeah, it's a lung condition and it's non-curable. Once you got it until you die, basically, and it's got 4 different stages of the condition.
What's the difference between emphysema? Because it will kill you also. Or is it just a new name?
See, COPD is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. That's what it stands for. So chronic being a chronic illness, obstructive, just as it says, it obstructs your airways. With emphysema, it's the bottom of the lungs that are damaged, and you cannot breathe out more than in. You can breathe in, but then the oxygen or the CO2, we say, you cannot breathe it out. So that causes illnesses in itself, because you can get CO2 poisoning, which people land, in hospital for as well. But mainly you can't breathe. And then if you get a flare up, as you call it, aspiration, we call it, then that's when you're on. I'm doing it now. I'm holding my breath. I must stop doing that. I tend to do that when I talk. I don't know why. And I have to tell myself to breathe. You go with a flare up. You have steroids. So I've got what you call an emergency pack, which consists of steroids and antibiotics. I'm allergic to penicillin now, so that's all forms of drugs that have got penicillin in it. Hence, I wear this medical alert necklace. It actually was a bracelet, but I put it around my neck. Just if anything happened, it tells the medical people what's wrong with me, what I have, what my conditions are. So it does actually say COPD, asthma. And being that I'm asthmatic as well, it's like a double whammy, because the asthma affects the top of the lungs. So asthma is up here. You can't take the breath in. And then the COPD is down here, and you can't let the breath out. So like I call it a double whammy for me. So it's changed my life.
Must be
and it was diagnosed about how long now? About 8 years, I think. And when I was working, that's my dream job. Actually, that's who I was. It's just who I was. It was my personality, my friendships, my work, everything. It was in the hospital, in the pharmacy, as an ATO, Assistant Technical Officer, in a hospital pharmacy here in London. And I loved the job. It's upsetting to think about it, actually. It was who I was. It was everything to me.
How you defined yourself.
Yeah. It was just like, and then take that away. Oh my gosh, I needed everything. I needed counselling. I had counselling through the hospital. They were helping me a bit. And it was one of the occupational therapists there that actually said to me, Dion, you've got to come to terms with this COPD, because this is now. It's who I was. It's not who I was. I don't know if it's the right thing to say, but it was that was changing my life. They tried really well to keep me at the hospital. They done really well to keep me. And it wasn't me as a worker. It wasn't because I loved the job. I was good at it. It was the illness making me have too much time off work. If I had a chest infection, aspiration, you'd be off work, which could lead to depression, which could be months of work, and any employer cannot go through that. They cannot keep you on and get somebody in to cover your role.
I know.
While you're away.
I was very much. I went from being a carer to the cared for within a small amount of time.
Yeah.
I was, whilst I was studying, I was a nanny for a few little boys who had problems with dyslexia, because I was diagnosed with dyslexia as a kid. And I don't know if you've heard of the Deaf Blind Association. It's called Sense Scotland, or Sense now. And they worked originally with the deaf blind, is what they would have called it. But they work with children and adults with sensory impairments. And I was a support worker for a young girl with cerebral palsy. And I did overnights, and I did sleepovers, and I did 14.5-hour shifts. And like the way you talked about the pharmacy is the way I felt about caring for Leanne. People would say, how can you deal with that stuff of human stuff? A teenage girl, she was 19 when I started, and I was only a few years older, but it didn't bother me. It was just a human who was going through life, and I needed to help her with it. So painting nails, massaging, taking for big walks, changing. Obviously, she needed a hoist. She needed physical care in every single way. She needed nappies. But this was something that I felt like it wasn't a big deal to me. It was something I loved to do. And like you said about having a great employer, I had a great employer.
Yeah.
But when you're off for months and it turns from months in infection, because I had many infections and hospital stays and then antibiotics, and then that antibiotic didn't work, so the next antibiotic was put on.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And I was working with a supervisor who was so understanding. But like you say, how can you possibly end up paying two people? And it did take a long time for me to realize.
Same here.
But, you know, I think it is a tough moment when you start to realize. I feel like I lost a big part of who I was as well, like you said, about sort of, like, I identified as someone who would get up, like if somebody needed help to get moving from house to house, I'd be there in the morning ready to help them move. If somebody needed, you know, to lie on my sofa and moan about their life, I was there. I could do that. And I could still do that. But all that physical stuff that used to also be part of me, I just couldn't do anymore. And it is that sense of self, isn't it?
You said earlier as well about putting a smile on your face and, you know, showing the world really, like, oh, I'm happy. But it's the same now, but definitely when I was at work, because nobody knew, no one, that I suffered from depression. No one.
Same.
And the only ones who did was my line manager and the, you know, the people that needed to know, basically, chief pharmacists and people that, you know, and I'd have months off work through depression and then go back to work and be my so-called happy self. And because I always knew that they would think like, what, Dion? You're joking, because I was like the clown.
I've been blessed. I've moved around a lot, and everywhere I go, I don't like the term best friend, but everywhere I've been able to go, I've made the equivalent of a best friend. And they've always been somebody I could talk to like other people talk to a counselor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a bit, all of my medications are downers. And so I've needed that barroom companionship. And I've been able to find somebody at every spot I've lived who I could share my darkest secret. My life is public if they all talk together. No one knows everything about me, but if they all got together, everything about my life could be put in a book.
Wow. Yeah. Friends for me, I don't know about all of you guys, but I've noticed for me, some friends stay, some friends go.
Oh, yes.
Some friends say, I would just prefer to have some happy news. It would be really nice to hear that you were having a good time in your life sometimes. Oh, that's helpful, isn't it? Yeah. It would be helpful to me too, is what I always would say. Oh, really? Oh, really? You know.
You're right though, because even if I've got a chest infection or aspiration, I find that people just stay away, and little do they know that's the time when you really need them.